you're here. Yeah, we're so glad you're here. Oh, we're so glad to be together in unity.
Repeat offenders. All right. I was just handed some money that was found in the parking lot by the stairs going
that's
down to
mine.
the lake. Well, wait a minute. If you can tell me the serial numbers on these, you can come and claim them.
I see.
So anyway, if you check your pockets and you're missing something, that's probably it. How is everyone this morning? Did you have a good week? Good. Well, we're going to start a fun-filled, we think, 6-week series
Yeah.
on Unity Through the Decades. We are just having a ton of fun putting it together, and we hope that you get as much out of it as we have gotten putting it together. So imagine a world where the television had rabbit ears.
Anybody remember those days?
Some of you are going, why would you put a rabbit on a TV? Where you had to fiddle with 2 silver antennas, twisting them just so, trying to catch a signal out of the invisible air. And yes, sometimes you had to put wads of aluminum foil on the ends. That signal was already there, radio waves passing through the invisible air, through your walls, even through your body. But without the right alignment of those metal rods, all you got was static. So that's where we're starting today. Not with nostalgia for poodle skirts and soda fountains, but with a deeper question: what happens when a whole generation, desperate for peace after decades of trauma, decides to build a perfect world and then has to live inside it?
Well, let's set the stage. World War I started in 1914, ended in 1918. Then came the Roaring '20s, which was prosperity, jazz, and flappers. You can look it up if you don't know what that means. Then in 1929, the Great Depression crashes in. World War II begins in 1939. Just as soon as the Depression is over, the war starts, and lasts until 1945. So just think about that. An entire generation lived through 2 world wars and a Great Depression. That's pretty tough, right? So when the soldiers came home, they didn't want just peace. They wanted certainty. They wanted normalcy. They just wanted to be normal again. They wanted a white picket fence. And by 1954, something was beginning to shift. We had the polio vaccine, which had killed thousands of children every year, was finally eradicated. The pacemaker was invented. Elvis Presley, Little Richard, and Chuck Berry launched rock and roll. Yeah. And the first credit card appeared, which was the Diners Club. I mean, know that women didn't get access.
For men only.
It was just for men. The transistor was invented. Yes. Anybody remember transistor radios? Yeah. And of course, it was the transistor that led to the invention of computers, right? I mean, I understand that there's an unfolding of things, right? There really is. There were seatbelts in cars. I remember when I was a kid, we had seatbelts, we just didn't wear them.
That's right.
That's right, you did that a lot. And my dad would say, all right, kids, sit down, thinking that just sitting there would make us safe. And I remember just being launched into the back end of the seat many times. But that was normal, right? So commercial jet travel began in the 50s. This was the atmosphere of the early 1950s, a deep collective craving for structure and order after a decade of depression and half a decade of war. America decided to forget the hard times and just try to be perfect.
And that's really important to remember as we move along through this, is that just they wanted normalcy after coming out of this hard, decades-long war and poverty situation.
Trauma.
They were just wanting some normalcy, okay? So anyway, we know what they used to build that perfection because we already mentioned it. In the 1950s, the hearth of the American home moved from the fireplace to the television set. And in 1950, less than 10% of American homes had a TV, but by 1960, 90% did. In one decade, this piece of furniture became the command center of the American living room. And what were we watching? Well, we were watching how we wish life could be. I Love Lucy showed us that chaos could be funny. Let it roll! If you remember that episode with the chocolates, okay. Father Knows Best showed us the perfect family where every problem was solved in 30 minutes by a wise father wearing a cardigan. Leave It to Beaver showed the perfect family with kids growing up with normal problems.
But here's what's interesting. Behind the scenes, Barbara Billingsley, who was the mom on Leave It to Beaver, was studying Unity principles. And she became a licensed Unity teacher. And while the rest of the United States was experiencing a rigid post-World War II traditional church revival, because people went back to church, because that was normal. They started going to church. The creative community in Southern California gravitated toward New Thought spirituality. Why? Well, because in the 1950s, the Hollywood studio system was unstable. And the rise of television, the Red Scare, the dismantling of actors' long-term contracts, it was a very volatile industry. So New Thought spirituality offered them something they desperately needed. It taught them that thoughts become reality. And for actors who were constantly facing rejection, how many understand that becoming an actor or a well-known musician takes a lot of stamina? It takes a lot of desire. It takes a lot of time. It's like I heard one guy talking. He said, I was overnight success after 20 years. Right? But it was the idea that the belief that they could mentally and consciously manifest success, right? It became a very powerful tool that they used. And they were taught through Unity and through other New Thought teachings that God was not a punishing figure. The guy in the sky has not got this big button where he's watching you to see what you're going to do and make sure that you're doing the right things. But an ever-present, infinite creative energy. How many understand that's what divinity is? It's a ever-present, creative, spiritual energy. The creator, okay? The creativity that lives inside of you. And so they would attend services, practice affirmative meditation, read devotional literature without having to conform to strict denominational rules.
Yay!
Right? So in 1953, Unity launched its first television program. And they deliberately used Hollywood celebrities to read inspirational messages. The Daily Word magazine became a standard fixture on the Hollywood backlots. Isn't that something? Stars like Barbara Billingsley and Eleanor Powell credited with helping them keep an emotional keel and even temper and a neutral way of being, even during, grueling filming schedules. If you hear people talk about doing movies, they spend all day, every day, and they sleep a few hours and they get right back up and they go right after it because they got to stay with it because of all kinds of, time constraints. Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah. Betty White, who frequently attended Unity's services, spoke continuously about the core principle that thoughts hold creative power. And she famously said, "It's your outlook on life that counts. There is always something positive to look for." And if you think back on Betty White's life, she was a very positive person. Eleanor Powell, who was one of MGM's top musical stars, became an ordained Unity minister. And she said, "What we are is God's gift to us, and what we become is our gift to God." I heard that said before, but I didn't know who had said it. It was Eleanor Powell. And who remembers Della Reese? She starred later on in Touched by an Angel. She immersed herself in New Thought teachings and eventually founded her own church. And she said, "Change your way of thinking and you'll change your life." Similar. These stars translated metaphysical principles into practical conversational philosophies about attitude, gratitude, and personal responsibility.
And one of the first mega churches was the Founders Church in Los Angeles with Dr. Ernest Holmes. And they had, I think, 100,000 members at one time. So it was, there was something happening. There was an explosion of spiritual understanding that was breaking through consciousness. A lot of times, spirituality comes from the East and then it goes West. And the East here is kind of like California. And then it comes.
That's the West.
Yeah, I know. But okay. It comes from the East through California.
Okay.
To the other East.
All right. Muddle your way through that.
See,
one.
we live on a circular globe. You understand? And so at some point.
So now let's look at that TV set through a metaphysical lens. First, the rabbit ears. So to get a picture, you had to fiddle with those two silver antennas, as we said earlier, and you were trying to catch that signal out of the invisible air. The signal was there, wasn't it? Yeah, it was radio waves passing through this invisible air. But again, without the right alignment, all you got was static. So Unity teaches us that there is only one presence and one power, and that the divine signal is always broadcasting. It's always there in the invisible air. The question is never, is God speaking? The question is always, am I tuned in? Have I adjusted my little rabbit ears? In the 1950s, okay.
I was adjusting your rabbit ears.
In the 1950s, people were turned into a very narrow frequency. There were only 3 networks. Everyone was watching the same thing. And this created a powerful, it created a powerful collective consciousness. But it was a scrubbed consciousness. Pat Boone, some of us remember Pat Boone. I don't, I'm too young. Pat Boone was the ultimate symbol of wholesome, safe American traditionalism with his white boot shoes things.
And his white belt.
And when he covered Little Richard's Tutti Frutti, oh Rudy, he took the soul and the funk out of it to make it safe. The screens of the 1950s television sets were small, and everything had to fit inside that 12-inch black and white frame. And if it didn't fit in there, it didn't exist.
Now, they never spoke about racial injustice. Brown versus Board of Education was 1954. But TV barely showed anything about it. There was no 24-hour news, which doesn't sound like a bad thing, if you know what I mean. But no one discussed mental illness. Homosexuality was not spoken about. Tennessee Williams wrote Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, which was about a man with unresolved, latent homosexual feelings. But people were afraid to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Well, now, lots of people, including me, we had aunts that never married. And they lived with their female friends. Mm-hmm. They called, and back then they were called Friends of Dorothy, as in The Wizard of Oz. And to be on the bus, and it was just slang just to talk about something that you didn't want to, get too deep into. Mm-hmm. So metaphysically, how many know that we do this too? We crop out a certain part of our reality sometimes, and we focus on the positive while ignoring the parts of ourselves that need healing, right? So the 1950s taught us that what you don't show, it just doesn't exist. How many? Well, just repeat after me. Denial.
Denial.
Right? But unity reminds us that whatever we resist persists, right? Because there was only one screen, the families sat together. Mm-hmm. And they watched the same news, the same shows at the same time. There was no streaming your own reality. How many have streaming services? Do you know how many services you have? Right? Most people don't know. And so they created a sense of belonging, but it was a belonging that was brought about by the currency of silence. We just don't talk about it. And how many, we've got to give them a little grace, right? Because they came through a lot.
Yeah.
So to belong, you had to agree not to rock the boat. All right? So yet, even with that narrow frame, music and the arts were just breaking out all over the place. In 1956, Elvis did his thing on the Ed Sullivan Show, but they only shot him from the waist up.
Waist up.
Oh, right. Down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the head, right?
So if we want to be honest about things, we have to understand that a metaphysical life doesn't mean pretending that the shadow isn't there. We talk about the shadow quite often, right? Because it's important to deal with it. It means we have to have some courage. We have to have courage to look at it rather than pretend that it's not there. So underneath all the perfect lawns, there was a shadow lurking, and it was pretty dark, as it is through all the eras that we're going to be speaking of. In 1955... In 1955, that gave us the year that Emmett Till was murdered, a 14-year-old boy whose mother insisted on an open casket so that the world could see what the TV networks refused to show. And 1955 also gave us Rosa Parks, who decided she was no longer going to fit into the frame that society built for her. And she didn't refuse to give up her seat because she was tired. She was tired.
Yeah.
Right? There's a difference. The 1950s tried to enforce conformity through fear. Fear of the Red Menace, communism, big. And the fear of the atomic bomb. We had duck and cover drills in school. Yeah? We were building bomb shelters in our backyards, but watching Father Knows Best in the evenings on our televisions. So what's the spiritual cost of that kind of conformity? Unity teaches us that each of us is a unique, unrepeatable expression of the divine. But in the 1950s, It rewarded sameness. We just all want to be the same. Conformity. If you were the child who asked too many questions, who loved the wrong person, or who felt a different rhythm in your heart, you were told to straighten up. Straighten up and fly right.
So where was unity in the 50s? Well, it's kind of a complicated answer. But if we're going to look at the decades through a metaphysical lens, then we have to be willing to hold the light and the shadow, right? Not just of the culture, but of our own spirituality. First, the light. Unity began in 1889 with Charles and Myrtle Fillmore in Kansas City, Missouri. From the very beginning, Unity welcomed African Americans to classes. They attended Sunday school. They became full members. In fact, when a group of black attendees once asked Charles Fillmore if they could have a designated section to sit in, Fillmore reportedly told them that they could sit anywhere that they chose. Not because Unity was leading the charge on civil rights, but because the teaching was clear. There's only one life, one presence, one power. That life is not segregated. By 1952, Unity ordained its first 2 black ministers. That was 8 years before the first black student quietly integrated into the University of Mississippi. It was 2 years before Brown versus Board of Education, and by the standards of the time, that was pretty significant.
Yeah. So that's the light. But here's the shadow. Because welcoming people of color in principle and fully integrating in practice were 2 different things. So at Unity Village, the headquarters and the training ground for ministers, on-campus housing in the early 1950s was only provided for white students. African American students had to leave campus at the end of every day. They could learn the metaphysics of oneness, but they couldn't sleep on the same ground. One of those students was a young woman named Johnny Coleman. She had come to Unity Village from Chicago after being told that she only had 6 months to live. And she discovered healing, and she discovered that perfect health was her birthright. And so she enrolled at the Unity Seminary to become a minister. But she was expected to leave every night. So during her final years of study, she threatened to quit unless on-campus housing was provided for black students. And her classmates, white classmates, petitioned the school on her behalf. And the color barrier began to break. The school provided a house on campus for black students. So let that sit for a moment. A woman had to threaten to leave the movement, and her fellow students had to rise up before the teaching that says there is no Jew, nor Greek, slave, nor free, became a housing policy.
And it wasn't just about housing. The most revealing document from this era is a letter written in August 1956, which was the very heart of the decade. A white congregant in Detroit wrote to her popular minister, Eric Butterworth, with a proposal. She suggested that black members of the Detroit Unity Association should start their own separate Unity Center. She wrote, where they can more efficiently and wisely serve their own people in their own enlightened way. She even drafted suggested wording for Butterworth to use in an announcement. She believed she was being helpful. She cited the Old Testament to prove that God willed the races to be separate. But here's what happened next. And this is the light breaking back through. Don't you love light? We need light, don't we? We need understanding. We need truth. We need to be able to see what's really going on in our lives and in each other and in our world, right? We need the light. So Eric Butterworth, a white minister in Detroit in 1956, wrote back 4 pages, which you can find in the Unity archives. And he didn't flinch. He wrote, "A segregated Unity Center is a paradox, not just unwise, not just unkind, a paradox," because he said, unity, as the name implies, stands for oneness. One God, one creator, one creation. And so he told his congregant that if Jesus' teachings of love, forgiveness, and tolerance and peace could not be applied in a practical, livable manner in our lives and in our unity centers, then they were not worthwhile. And here is what we can take away from this. That the 1950s were not unity's finest hour on race, but they were an honest hour. How many know that we have to grow? We have to evolve. We live in a world where people are coming from all different backgrounds and all different cultures and all different perspectives. They've been taught certain things. Do you realize how difficult it is to share with someone who already has their beliefs decided for them? Mm-hmm. They're emotionally embedded in their beliefs. And just to try to argue with somebody who is emotionally in that particular way of thinking is very difficult to change their minds. Anybody say amen to that? Yeah. So, boy, there's a lot of different ways we could go with this. But anyway.
I know.
So even today, the question is not, did unity fail? The question is, did unity learn? How many know you're not a failure either? But are you learning? That's the key. So slowly, imperfectly, through people like Johnny Coleman and Eric Butterworth, unity began to grow and change and evolve. Yeah. Isn't it beautiful?
So the question that we want to ask each week as we look at these decades is, where was the divine hiding in plain sight? So that's the question for the 1950s. Well, first, it was hiding in the transistor radio. Huh? Well, the television was the authority, the script, the one right way. But the radio was the liberation, because teens everywhere were hiding under their covers at night, listening to the beat. And Unity teaches there is one presence and one power, and in the 1950s, that presence was broadcasting itself through a $10 radio, telling a generation, you are not limited to this.
And so second, in the music, the parents hated, because the parents called it the devil's music. And today it's so tame. You know what I mean? And so the clergy preached against it, but the music wouldn't be tamed. That was the Holy Spirit working through music. How many understand that God works through everything? Have you gotten that yet? That's the deeper revelation. God comes to us through the music, through the arts, through the stories, through the books, through the movies, through the actions of the people around us, through nature, all of these things. God is there, revealing to us what we need. And if we'll just learn how to play ball with the divine, right? And play catch back and forth. Say, oh, there's the divine, there's the divine, there's the divine, there's divine. It's everywhere. You just start waking up to it, and you start seeing it. See, I'm not just a mind to be trained, to have beliefs about this, that, and everything else. I'm not just a soul to be saved. I am flesh and bone and hip and heart, and God made all of it. Isn't that great? All of it. Unity teaches that we are created in the image and likeness of divine spirit. Not just spiritually, but physically, emotionally, sexually, joyfully. And in the 50s, the divine was hiding in a guitar riff that made teenagers dance when no one was watching. All right?
Third, the divine was hiding in plain sight in the voices that refused to be silenced. Rosa Parks, a young minister by the name of Martin Luther King Jr. The divine was not found in the sermons of the comfortable where you were told to just stay in your place. It was found in the mouths of Black women and young ministers who had learned from generations of suffering that God was on the side of the oppressed. Unity teaches there is one power, and that power is good. And in the 1950s, that good was hiding in the courage of a woman who refused to move to the back of the bus.
Fourth, in the silence beneath the noise. The 1950s were loud. Not with music, though there was plenty, but loud with expectation, with the constant hum of be good, be quiet, be normal, be happy. You ever have somebody tell you, be happy? Right? I'm not, but you should be. But underneath all that noise, underneath the TV, underneath the pressure, underneath the fear of the bomb and the neighbor and the shame, there was a silence. There was silence. And the silence was the divine. I remember the first time I meditated, I sat on the bed and I got quiet and I fell asleep.
Yeah.
Right? The second time, I got quiet, so I'm not going to sleep this time. And I didn't go to sleep. But the parade, da 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 da, you know. And it's amazing when you get quiet. If it's like if there's something that you've lost or that you're missing in your life, just go meditate. Yeah. And all of a sudden you'll think about it. Oh, that's right. I left that on the table. I'm supposed to meet so-and-so, and I forgot. Because it's the silence is where we meet God. God is the pause between the breaths. God is the stillness and the trees and the leaves and the grass. God is the stillness inside of you. Isn't that beautiful?
Of course, Simon and Garfunkel would go on to write that beautiful song, The Sound of Silence.
Wait a minute, that's the 60s.
I
We're
know.
not there yet.
I know. No, we've traveled through a decade, the 1950s, that tried so hard to be perfect. They built a world of white picket fences and black and white television, looking for normalcy coming out of those years of trauma, traumatized. And they taught a generation to crop out anything that didn't fit in the frame because they were looking for peace, normalcy. Their entire nervous systems were looking for rest. Yeah. So here's what we want you to remember. The soul in the 1950s was living in exile. Now, exile is not emptiness. Exile is longing. And longing is the beginning of prayer and change. And change is a coming. The consciousness you hold creates your experience. And in the 1950s, this collective consciousness, as we've said so many times now, was one of conformity. If you had the greener lawn, if you had the whiter teeth, if you had the better vacuum cleaner, you were winning. Keeping up the facade. Right?
Yeah. But underneath the polished surface, there was a restlessness. There was a restlessness in the 50s. A hunger for something real, something that couldn't be captured inside that little TV screen.
Yeah.
The restlessness, that hunger, it didn't disappear. It's still here in us, in our culture. You see it every day in our spiritual communities. That divine signal is always broadcasting. All right? God is always speaking. Spirit is always communicating. We just have to tune in, don't we?
Yeah.
So, we'll leave you with this. What are you cropping out? What are you hiding from yourself that don't fit the picture of who that you think that you should be? Something to think about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just remember that this humming underneath everything in the late 50s is going to come with an explosion in the 60s, which we'll look at next week.
Yeah.
Whatever we bring into the light with courage and honesty and faith, that's where healing can begin. Yes? So there's only one life, one presence, one power, and that life is not segregated, it's not cropped, it's not silent. It's you, fully you, all of you, every single one of you.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
It really is.
Yes.
So let's give the 50s a hand this morning. We're going to turn down the lights. I want to invite you just to get comfortable for a moment. The 50s, and we'll soon discover all decades, are all about change, right? How many have learned to say yes to change? Yeah. It's good for you. It's like a medicine. Change is calling, and I say yes. Life is flowing, and I am blessed. The old is past, the new has come. Love is stronger than any fear. Step by step, breath by breath, Spirit guides my every step. And I release, I now receive in this moment. I believe, I believe, I believe. Change is calling, and I say yes. Life is flowing, and I am blessed. The old is past, new is here. Love is stronger than any fear. Step by step, breath by breath, Spirit guides. Oh, my every step. And I release, I now receive in this moment. I believe, I believe, I believe. step by step, breath by breath, Spirit guides my every step. And I release, I now receive in this moment. I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe. Change is calling, and I say yes. I want to invite you inside now, inside of your own heart, your own mind. Just let yourself breathe. Maybe you've been experiencing some challenging times. Maybe you're not sure what's happening, what's going on with your life right now. Maybe there's trouble with certain people, just conflict. You can't seem to get a handle on it. What's this about? Why am I experiencing this right now? What is it about? It's all about change, and it's all about digging deeper, going deeper. Deeper into what's really true for you, what's really real for you, here and now. It's not about who you were yesterday or the day before or last year, but it's about who am I now? What is Spirit trying to tell me through my circumstances, through the people around me, through my body? What is the message for me? Well, number one, you need to just accept yourself as you are right now. Make peace with where you are. Just tell yourself right now, say, it's okay. It's okay to be in process. It's okay not to have it all together all the time. It's okay to cry, and 1 minute, maybe laugh the next. As you make peace with your situation, then you give it permission to change. That's how we say yes to change, is making peace with it. It's okay. Some of us have a lot of regrets. This didn't work out. That didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, or this situation is not how I planned it. Just let all of that go if you can. The most important thing you need right now is peace. Just peace. And this morning, I just feel like I'm saying this for somebody, maybe several somebodies here. There's something that you're ready for your breakthrough. Some of you may have a few more steps that you need to take, but you're going to break through. You're going to get through it. keep walking forward, keep moving forward, keep taking the next step and the next step and the next step. Because it's leading you somewhere. Sometimes you don't know where that somewhere is, but that's okay, because you're not supposed to know until you get there. And then you'll know. So we walk by faith and not by sight. We pick up the little clues along the way, the little whispers. Each one of us, we're all being guided perfectly, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it. You're not alone. You're not alone. Change is in the air. Just say yes to change. Let's take a breath together. If there's somebody on your heart this morning that you'd like to say some prayers for, I invite you to whisper their names aloud at this time and just hold them in this sacred moment together, this healing time. And in your own way, surround them with your love and your prayers, with good positive energy, almost as if you're just reaching out to them and putting your arms around them and telling them, I love you, I appreciate you. It's all going to work out. That's that prayer from the heart, affirming the highest and best for all. It's all coming together. It's all coming together. And so we know that there are storms in the world, there are earthquakes, hurricanes. And so we pray for the healing and the stamina, for the strength of all those who've been afflicted and experiencing these various traumas. We wish you peace. We send you peace. And so lastly, let's take a moment just to count our blessings. What is right that's going on in your life? What's going right? Focus on that. And it will help to pull you out of the dark. Look toward the light. Be grateful during these times. And you'll be able to move forward. So we say, thank you, God, for the breath in my lungs. Thank you for the ability to feel and think, rationalize, and to experience joy and peace. And to have whatever I need whenever I need it. I just trust in that higher power. And I give thanks. So hold with me for just a moment in the stillness. Hold together in the silence now. And I am grateful for the silence. And so it is. So it is. Thank you for your prayers. Let's take a moment to reach and stretch. Alert, awake.